name is Mario Coetzee. I'm a dream priest, a member of the Order of Light. I can control the dream realm and collect residual energies from travels. I could enter all minds with telepathic communications, opening doors into mine as well. But this wasn't always the case. Not too long ago, I was just a baby in a basket on a doorstep of an orphanage. Terrible nightmares, strange anomalies in my brainwaves while I slept. But to me and everyone else, I was just another human. I was later adopted by a wealthy Italian-American family. Now I had resources and opportunities. My new parents were there for me, through a lot. They pushed me, challenged me. I repaid them by being top in my class. But then they died. A mysterious car accident. A tough time for me. Nearly dropped out of school. Nearly had a breakdown. I still graduated top of the class from a top university. Eventually, I became an award-winning investigative journalist. Top of the field, but it wasn't easy. The dream started again after my parents' death. I persevered as my work kept me from being alone all the time, but then came that case. The one that changed everything. The medallion known as Juan Nglui, or the Control Gate. It has some power over time and space. Ultimately led me to Jupiter, to Seatak's temple, the temple of the Dream Priests. Led me to learn that my existence is because of the medallion, somehow creating me from Seatak's mind. It was there that my fellow dream priests were unlocked in my head, a residual energy waiting for its moment. My dream priest powers were now fully available. But I also learned the medallion was forged by the elders. When you touch it, your heart influences its power. I came into existence because the medallion deemed the good part of Seatak needed to be purged. But this existence could not be simply deleted. It needed a form to imprison it and keep it at bay. But when I defeated Seatak, all my knowledge came back. Everything Seatak experienced and what I experienced. But I'm still Mario Coetzee, not Seatak. I later learned I have elder blood. Not sure if I can unlock it or use it, but I know my mother was an elder who ran away because something was wrong. She didn't like the tactics and overall planning, thought it was cruel. She met my father, who was a dream priest, questioning the war and the elders' intentions. They were exiled after denouncing the Order of Light, left me behind because they believed it would be my choice to follow them. But I still needed to grow up and see for myself. Raised by dream priests and their ceremonies and rituals, love never came. This corrupted me into a cold, heartless, power-hungry leader. But the good in me still existed. Who I was before feeling abandoned. As I think of these past traumas, it made me realize I needed to search for my parents now that I am Mario Coetzee, the dream priest. Now that I'm not cold and heartless. I too have questions about the elders, especially after learning about Franklin and seeing humans used as pawns as they continuously fight to be a chosen one. I tapped into my thoughts further when looking for Queen Mab. It led me to something that unlocked with me as I asked my questions. You should all listen.
Mario, if you're listening to this message, you're beginning to question everything.
It has been a long time, son. We're sorry for leaving you, but please know it was the only way to keep you safe. Exile is not easy on a child.
I am an elder. But that is only the name of a group, not a species. The world I come from actually had two groups. The elders seized power. The purpose was to protect the world from chaos. A spreading disease known as Obsitan zabisus. This disease came from the void. I was born into the elders and raised to be a good, obedient lackey. But then I saw what they did. They fractured the void further, realizing they could harness the energy to create whole new worlds. The purpose? Create chaos to attract chaos. The shadows could be imprisoned in a labyrinth of worlds. I couldn't stand by and see living life destroyed or corrupted. The elders began to call our world the Master Realm and all others inferior. They began recruiting beings and pretending they were gods to instill obedience and fear. The Order of Light came to be. All part of the plan. Then I met your father.
Dream priests were recruited early on by the elders, but slowly lost influence and position. The elders feared us because we could enter their minds and show them things. We could also find out information. The others devolved into a religious ceremonial cult. And when they needed their gods the most, the elders abandoned them in their biggest time of need. I lost faith before this, or I too would have perished back then. Instead, me and your mother sat back and hoped for the day when we could help to train you into who we believe you will be.
You see, I love your father. But we had a son not because of our love, but because we needed the ultimate weapon. A dream priest with elder blood. We left you so we could hide your existence. The elders never thought of checking into you. The dream priests accepted you as one of their own. You were able to grow and get to this point. Don't you see? Only you have the power to end the war. But you will need to make it to my home world, the Master Realm.
And you will need to find the survivors of the Elder Uprising. Only they will be able to help you unlock your Elder blood.
Good luck, son. We hope you have help, because this is not going to be easy. Just know, we think about you every day and do love you very much. We're sorry, but it was the only way.
Good luck, son. You will hear from us one more time when the 12 gather at the Temple of the Eye. Until then, be safe. Dark forces will move swiftly once they learn who you are.
Welcome to the quest for the Green Ball, Lost in Dreamlands. This is it, the final week of the regular season, the time to shine, to bring momentum into the playoffs, to show why teams should fear you. This is going to be a fun one. 2 division champions will be crowned in week 14. One more first round bye will be decided as well. And the final 2 wildcard spots will be clinched. The final playoff bracket and seeding is still very much in the air as well because of all these scenarios. And then you got the consolation buys on the line for those missing out on the playoffs. And with such a juicy slate of matches to keep an eye on, how do we pick the one that rises above the rest? Easy. The Asia Pacific Void title, a first round bye, and a potential #1 overall seed can be decided in one huge matchup. That's right, in the final of 2024, 9-4 Pounders travels to take on 10-3 Risky Business in Sydney, 1842. Both teams already clinched postseason berths, but this matchup is huge when looking at the challenging playoff field. A Risky Business win will give them the division title, a first-round bye, and a #1 overall seed. A Pounders win will give them a division title and a first-round bye. Pounders can also earn a #1 overall seed with a win and a loss by Remember the Titans. This could also end up being a semifinal or green ball preview, as the losing team is guaranteed to be the #4 seed. If the winning team ends up #1, they will be on the same side of the bracket, but if Pounders wins and ends up #2 overall, they would be on the opposite sides of the bracket. Of course, a battle this big between the two top-ranked teams in the league is a 50-50 toss-up right now. This is a week Pounders does not have to choose a quarterback. Josh Allen is the only one he has not on a bye, and Allen gets to carve up a suspect Rams secondary. Baker Mayfield gets a good matchup with Las Vegas, and it will be needed, with Allen possibly being in the 30-point range here based on projections. James Cook will look to break off a 50-plus yard TD run again against a Rams team that was decimated by Saquon Barkley, though they did hold Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill, before his injury, in check last week. On the other side, Kyron Williams gets the Bills defense, which tends to give up a lot of rushing yards. However, a Bills blowout could alter the game script. So this game between the Bills and Rams will be very interesting for this game of the week. And it becomes extra important with Pounders going with the Bills defense as well. He will need his defense to keep up with the Eagles, who are firing on all cylinders and going up against Carolina this week. Carolina has been better lately, so it may not be as easy of a matchup as expected, just to keep in mind. Josh Jacobs versus Breece Hall is also a key spot. Jacobs has been doing very well lately, but gets a tough Detroit run defense. The defense tends to be tough because of game script, with Detroit tending to be in shootouts if the game is close. Breece Hall has not played like the #2 overall pick, but has done well when he goes up against good matchups, and gets one here with Miami. He has all of his 15-plus point games and 20-plus point games when he has a good matchup. Justin Jefferson gets a good matchup as well against Atlanta, and this is for Risky Business, of course. That makes Jackson Smith and Jigba's game very important to limit damage in this spot for Pounders. Mike Evans and James Conner are both vets who are having a great season when on the field. Evans gets the better matchup of the two, and Conner goes up against a defense that held him to just 4.9 points a few weeks ago. The tight ends will be watched closely. Brock Bowers is starting to hit a stride, a great trade Pounders made with Air Jordan earlier this season. Tucker Kraft is a touchdown-dependent tight end, but he has had over 70 yards 3 times this season. If Green Bay is in a shootout with Detroit, he could get plenty of red zone opportunities. For the kickers, Jake Bates has been doing well, but has a tough matchup. Jason Myers isn't on a high-scoring offense, but gets a great matchup, so we'll see what happens there. 2 players do stand out to me in this matchup as potential division winner helpers. For Pounders, I turn to wide receiver Xavier Worthy. Worthy has scored double-digit points in just 3 games this season, but even with DeAndre Hopkins, he is getting targets. He's had 13 combined in the past 2 weeks. He's also yards away, it seems, from getting that big play as he tries to get in sync with Patrick Mahomes in his rookie season. Mahomes has gone his way in a deep pass multiple times in the past few weeks, and they were very, very close to connecting on those big touchdown plays. Sooner or later, it looks like it may hit, and Pounders is hoping this is the week. Worthy also has potential on end arounds or screen passes in the red zone. The opponent is the Los Angeles Chargers, who tend to not give up a lot of points, but are still only 20th against wide receivers, allowing 12 touchdowns to the position this season. Worthy is most likely going to have a big fantasy game with touchdowns as opposed to a lot of yards, unless that big play happens. Mahomes has played better lately at quarterback, and the Chiefs can win their division this week and still have Buffalo chasing them down for the number 1 seed. So Andy Reid may be scheming up a way to get Worthy involved in such a big game. One way to beat a good defense is to use speed and blocking in a misdirection play design. That could be Worthy's wheelhouse, of course. If Worthy reaches the end zone and or finally gets that big play, Pounders could be on his way to claiming the division title. But if he's held to single-digit points again, it could be the reason they settle for the top wild card instead. Risky Business has a player in the flex that would be a number 1 wideout on most teams. Talking about T. Higgins. The Bengals also have Jamar Chase, so Higgins is more of a top-tier wide receiver 2 in fantasy football right now. In a 50-50 toss-up match, it could come down to the last player, and Higgins will be the final player on Monday night. He has double-digit points in the last 3 games he's played, including against the Chargers, by the way, and a tough Steelers defense. He's had 5 touchdowns in 7 games, including 1 in each of his last 3 games, and he has 60 or more yards in all but 1 game he's played in this season. This week, Higgins gets a Dallas team that is struggling in 2024 due to injuries, but is suddenly showing some defensive prowess again as guys get healthy. The Cowboys have allowed 10 touchdowns to the wide receiver position, but 3 were against the Falcons and 2 were against the Lions when Micah Parsons was out. Parsons is back, and it must be noted, the Cowboys still allowed 100-yard games to A.J. Brown and Terry McLaurin, even with Parsons in the lineup. But McLaurin's yards and touchdown mostly came in one 86-yard play, and for the most part, the defense has shown lots of improvement since Parsons' return. It also needs to be noted that the Bengals tend to be in shootouts with how horrible their defense is. That usually means more opportunities for passing touchdowns. If Higgins continues to do well and reaches the end zone again, Risky Business will get a much-needed boost from the flex position, and that could be why they are the number 1 overall seed and division champ. If his touchdown streak ends, though, and Parsons gets pressure on Burrow to limit passing opportunities, it could be a big blow to those number 1 overall seed hopes. Now, this game is obviously huge, but we also have another division title and 2 more wild card spots on the line in Week 14, and we got to determine the final seeding and what our quarterfinal matchups will be, as all that's still up in the air. This is going to be an action-packed final week, obviously, so let's discuss it in the best of the rest. To play for, so let's start there. 4-9 the Overcomers takes on 5-8 the Stellar Bitches in Mexico City 1955 with a potential consolation bye on the line. A win and a loss by the Clash at Demon Head most likely gives the Overcomers the second bye in the consolation bracket, but it may also go to points depending on other results, which favors the Clash at Demon Head at the moment. The Stellar Bitches would most likely get a first-round bye with a win and an elite Mother Tuckers win. If the Mother Tuckers lose and the Clash at Demon Head wins, a consolation bye likely goes to the Clash at Demon Head over the Stellar Bitches due to points tiebreaker. This one is being called a 50-50 toss-up, but that is because both teams are in bye-week hells to close the season. The Overcomers need a quarterback with Joe Burrow on the other side. The matches I see as important here are Tyrone Tracy's versus Najee Harris and Cooper Kupp versus Darnell Mooney. Isaiah Pacheco is back from IR, so the Stellar Bitches need to add them back to the lineup in order to make waiver wire moves. Pacheco versus Aaron Jones is an area to watch if the Stellar Bitches play Pacheco. 4-9 Air Jordan travels to Chicago 1967 to take on 9-4 Remember the Titans. Remember the Titans needs a win and a Pounders win to get the number 1 overall seed, but they are guaranteed a first round bye and at least a number 2 seed already. Air Jordan can only earn a home consolation quarterfinal matchup, no bye. Jameis Winston versus Caleb Williams, Jamar Gibbs versus Rico Dowdle, Jamar Chase versus Jordan Addison, and Malik Neighbors versus Keenan Allen look like key areas. The Tampa Bay versus Tennessee defense battle will be big as well. Moving on to the other Asia-Pacific Void battle, the 6-7 Elite Mother Tuckers hosts 4-9 Green Acres in Moscow 24-35. The Elite Mother Tuckers need to win in losses by More Than Conquerors and Loki Lebowski Thor to have any shot at the playoffs. Probably needs to score 35 more points than More Than Conquerors as well. The Mother Tuckers are locked into a consolation bye if they don't make the playoffs because they have wins over the Stellar Bitches and the Clash at Demon Head. The Mother Tuckers come in with a 60% chance to win, with Green Acres needing to make some moves off his bench. Justin Herbert versus Russell Wilson or Bryce Young look to be big. Also, Rashad White versus Devon Achane and Puka Nacua versus DJ Moore look to be places to watch. In the European Void, 7-6 More Than Conquerors can only win the division with a win over 5-8 the Clash at Demon Head and by scoring 26 more points than Minerva's Minions. A win clinches a playoff berth, but a Loki Lebowski Thor win or Elite Mother Tuckers loss also gets that job done. Making sure they score more than the Elite Mother Tuckers will also get them in. The good news is that this one is on the road in Barcelona 1992. More Than Conquerors are 5-1 this season as the road team. More Than Conquerors has a 55.6% chance to win. Both Joe Mixon for More Than Conquerors and Jonathan Taylor for the Clash at Demon Head are on byes. So both teams are losing some big running backs there. Kyler Murray versus Jordan Love and David Montgomery versus Tank Bigsby are big. Isaac Garendo versus DeAndre Swift is probably a key area as well. Garrett Wilson versus DK Metcalf and Travis Kelce versus Trey McBride will be huge as well. Don't sleep on the Vikings versus Saints defensive battles. Lastly, 7-6 Loki Lebowski Thor host 8-5 Minerva's Minions in Berlin 1929. Lebowski Thor gets into the playoffs with a win, a More Than Conquerors win, or an Elite Mother Tuckers loss. The Minions clinched a division with a win or a More Than Conquerors loss unless Lebowski Thor scores 136 points more than the Minions, which is a possibility in our history books. Lebowski Thor defeated my team 170-43 back in week 1 of 2019 and won twice against my team that season. They haven't defeated me in the last 9 matchups though. That means it has been 5 years since Lebowski Thor earned a win against my squad. And of course, the Cash of Mentats is on the line again, as this is a rivalry. So Lebowski Thor will be looking to get some big-time revenge against my team and claim those Mentats, possibly the division. The Minions come in with a 75.3% chance to win, but Lebowski Thor needs to make moves with no defense and an injured tight end. Jalen Hurts has a great matchup, but so does Saquon Barkley. Lebowski Thor will need Hurts to vulture TDs with the tush push. Patrick Mahomes is a tougher matchup against the Chargers as well, something to keep in mind. Elvin Kamara and Chase Brown versus Bucky Irving and Kenneth Walker will also loom large. And don't sleep on the George Pickens versus Marvin Harrison Jr. battle. When the dust settles after the madness of these matchups, our playoff field will be set. For those still fighting, this is essentially the playoffs already. And for those fighting for division titles, it probably feels close to the atmosphere the playoffs will bring, even if you are guaranteed another game. But this has been a long and grueling season as always. Just making it into the playoffs is a huge accomplishment, and winning your division is certainly not easy either, so you should be celebrating if you do that. Whatever happens in the tournament, the highs will be remembered, including these last few weeks of the season. You know, even though we all know if we don't win the Green Bowl, we feel it's a lost season in the moment, of course. Usually takes a year, maybe 2 years before you realize you did do well this year. If you made it in the playoffs, won a division, maybe made a little bit of a run. Some teams go years without making it, so celebrate it while you have it. But before we get to those storylines, we need to settle the end of the regular season, and this should be a fun week. That's the show! Hope you enjoyed it. The playoffs begin next week, and our theme story continues to wrap up. Just 8 episodes left.
How crazy is that? Before you go, check out the league standings, and until next time, salut.